Use these 5 sayings and watch your relationship literally go down the drain because they are so toxic and so really detrimental to your relationship. Communication is the core pillar of any healthy relationship. And today on this video, me and my boyfriend here, Omega, are going to be discussing five sayings that we believe are detrimental to any relationship success. You always, you never.
This is the classic, you always do this or you never do this. Generally, people will say this when something has happened and they feel like this is something that is a repetitive pattern. And instead of like voicing it in a well-structured way, they'll instead say, you never do this. Like, it's almost like you are now boxing the person to a particular character and into a particular way. And that is something that slowly actually causes like emotional detriment on the other side, on the receiving end of the statement. And even on the other person's side, it makes them view the other person a certain way over time. Because if you keep telling yourself, you never, XYZ, or you are always late, then that slowly creates some type of friction in you as well as a person. So that's something that I would definitely say people should be careful of. I know I've got a history of sometimes saying that. I've said it to you a couple of times as well. But you eventually learn that this is something that's not productive.
It's not productive at all. And for me, I've been that person who's done this and who's been that the person that instigates that sort of back and forth tug of war of you never, you always, and it causes such a rift because there's now a defense and an attack thing going on. We're now on opposing teams, and I'm fighting for my identity, and you're fighting to prove or disprove whatever I'm saying. I've already concretized who you are in my head based on this behavior. So the behavior itself is now a part of who you are, and I'm not addressing now the action. And that already is like you are this a label that now is attached to who you are, and it's not addressing a situation, which gets very detrimental, as you said, because now I'm not looking at you as my partner anymore. I'm looking at you from this perspective. This is who you are. And once we make those strict rules and box people in, that's where the challenge comes in. When you think, I know this person, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's no more room for open curiosity to actually learn the person, because now there's this box that they belong into. It's not my fault that you feel that way.
Ooh. And that's a rough one, because technically it can be true.
It is true.
As a person, you are responsible for how you feel. However, at the same time, it can be true that another person is responsible for how you feel. Just because I'm responsible for how I feel doesn't mean that you don't have an impact on how I feel. Like if I just slap you right now, you're gonna feel a certain way. Yes, it's your body that's not feeling that way, but I'm obviously the instigator of the trouble. So I think as people, we have to always hold both views, that my actions and words have an impact on my spouse or my girlfriend or my partner or whoever. And at the same time, yes, they are responsible for the way that they feel, but I'm also responsible for my own actions that result in them feeling a certain way. And so I should take responsibility. So when a person says words like, it's not my fault you feel that way, it's almost like they're dismissing how you feel. They're not acknowledging what they've done that's making you feel the way that you're feeling. There's a strong lack of empathy, and that's something that definitely really hurts.
Definitely, there's actually nothing that I'll add there except the thing that you're saying. Empathy needs to be okay. I can't own that you're feeling the way that you're feeling. Yes, it's not my fault that you feel it because you went in there on your own. But I can put myself in how you're feeling and imagine how it feels to be in that position, and actually show some sort of compassion towards how you're feeling, and not say, it's not my fault that you feel that. That's dismissive. It's already cut off any sort of feeling, compassion for the other person. It's like, deal with your shit, sort of vibes. It's not my fault that that's the case. So we try to move away from that by actually embracing empathy in those situations and not having that sort of cut off. You deal with your things. I'm not involved. Because already we're not partners then, we're not a team, and we're not doing things together anymore, and we're not looking, even with this difficult situation that's happened, at solving it together. You solve it yourself because it's yours. Now I'm not involved. I don't know. I feel like women actually feel it a lot more, or get told this a lot more. But you're not the person that I used to know. You've changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you say that?
I feel like men, when they're trying to get themselves out of the relationship, that's one of the main thing that they now front load and say, this is how I'm feeling. You're not the person that I used to know anymore. But you're not saying particularly what it is that is not the same or what's changed. But it's like a vagueness of just making the person feel as if like there's something that they've dropped the ball on, but you don't want to say because you actually want the relationship to end anyway. So you're just maneuvering the situation in a manner where there's no real clear thing that you want out of this as a result in terms of fixing something, but you're just saying so that you can get yourself out of the relationship. What do you know?
That's interesting. Obviously, I've never dated another guy, so so I'm not experienced in guys saying that. I don't know if I've ever said that to somebody that, oh, you're not the person that I used to know.
You've changed.
You've changed. You're not the person. I don't know. I don't have a comment on that. But I guess that is something that definitely would change your relationship. If you obviously honestly feel this is not the person that you met and this is not the person you want to continue being in love with, then you are going to leave the relationship naturally. And it's also going to push the other person away because it's like, wait, if you're not the person, like, if I'm not the person that you used to know, then who do you love? You love a history of me and not the me right now. So I'm also thinking like, okay, well, I'm going to be pushed away. So I think that's something that would happen in that circumstance. Though I could potentially add that girls actually use that quite a lot. Most of the time it's because a guy doesn't do certain things that he used to do at the beginning of the relationship. Yes. And so the girl is like, hey, you're not the person you've changed. You don't do the things that you used to do. Things used to be this way and now they're not.
Well, I think women use that in a blanket statement of the relationship, not the person, not the partner, but like we used to do these things. We used to be these people who did certain things, but now we don't. Not so attacking the person.
Oh. I think when most of the time, well, in fact, we're not generalized like that, but in certain circumstances, when a person says, when a woman says the relationship is not the way it used to be, it's mostly an indication of what the guy is doing in the relationship. Because what is the relationship not being the way it used to be? You're not taking me out anymore. We're not going to places anymore. Ooh, we're not doing shopping anymore, or we don't do it as much anymore. You don't buy these gifts anymore. What is the relationship activity that doesn't happen anymore that has changed? Because if you're saying we don't do these things anymore, then it's either you're saying I don't instigate these things anymore, or you're saying I've stopped doing these things. And clearly, if you're saying to me that you don't do the relationship isn't the way it used to be anymore, then you're clearly saying there's something I'm not doing anymore. Because if you knew that you're the one who's not doing it, then you just do it, right?
Yeah, point taken.
So that's something I would say. But I don't know.
Why can't you be more like ... Yeah, that's a red flag there, and a destroyer and a drainer of relationship positive energy. Comparison to other people that are outside or previous relationship really tarnishes energy actually the other person might have towards the relationship, and pouring in positivity or pouring in and investing their time and energy into the relationship, because there's always a consistent sort of lens of this must be like this, or it's not up to par. So whenever there's that sort of comparison with other people's relationship or how things are expected to be versus how they are, you're always creating that sort of split within the relationship of, there's always subpar.
Yeah. In my opinion, if I ever hear those words, for me, the relationship is over. Yeah. Like, in fact, I will dump you there and there. Like, sentence, okay, we're done, we're out. And there's a really good reason for it. It's because clearly you're not here. You're somewhere there. Yeah, or you were never here in the first place. You've been thinking about something else and making comparisons and doing like a measuring thing. And I'm not here to play that game. If I'm here to build something really real and something really serious, I'm not here to play the game of trying to copy paste other people's situations into my life. So those are my standards.
You are always so emotional. And that's the final one. What would you say about that one?
About people who are always emotional.
No, using that as like
Yeah, as a sentence. Yeah, yeah. Well, the question is the person always so emotional? But I get how that can be an issue, because it means anything that the person says is disregarded because, well, they are just such an emotional person. So I can't take their anger, I can't take their hurt seriously because, well, they're such an emotional person. So I think it's a sentence of disregard, and I think
Yeah.
that's why it actually really sucks and
Hurts.
really hurts.
Yeah.
It's because it's a sentence of disregard, and depending on who's using it, it can be a sentence of really putting down a person. So I'll give an example. When a man is using it against a woman, he's really disregarding her emotions. Maybe it might be general, maybe she is emotional, but it's still a disregard of another person's emotions. When a woman is using it against a man, it's not necessarily about the man's emotions, but it might be to actually emasculate the guy, and that is like a really wrong thing, because you're almost like painting him in a brush of like, you're so like feminine, in the way that you act. You're like so
In your feelings.
feminine, so in your feelings, which is not a bad thing. I don't have any negative statements against guys like that. However, generally when a woman does say that to a guy, it's generally to like really just target his manhood. So that is a huge red flag. And if somebody does say that to you, then I think it's important that you first check: am I really over the top emotional? Am I struggling to manage my emotions? So that way you don't misjudge the person's words as like something hurtful,
Yeah.
but instead it might be some really good honest criticism for you to actually look at. If of course once you realize that, okay, maybe that's not the case, then enter the conversation and ask, hey dude, am I really emotional? Or is there something up with you where you're just saying it? Over time, you'll pick up the pattern that when you bring up issues that the person is uncomfortable with, they quickly say you're emotional. Then you know, okay, I'm not
Cut
the
off.
problem, they're the problem, because they're using this as like a way to disregard me.
Yeah.
But you might actually realize that every time they say that, it's because I've been acting crazy. Then maybe I am emotional and I need to actually go through some counseling,
Well,
so.
Valid points. The few times that I've experienced this in my life personally was when I would actually think it borders narcissistic behavior of somebody who's trying to contain a situation that they can see that they've put themselves in, which now has rendered me emotional because of what has been done. But now you're trying to contain and now water down and have this thing. I'm not sure what is the latest term for it. Gaslighting. Yeah. That sort of gaslighting energy into the situation where I'm being made to feel as if what I'm feeling is not really something that is a perception that is valid for what's going on. So there's some sort of like maneuvering of and manipulation of play here, where I'm now going to be said to be emotional, so that I now look at myself and say, oh, maybe something's wrong, and I'm overreacting in a situation where clearly something possibly is wrong, but now I'm the focal point of something that is wrong because I'm reacting the way that I'm reacting, and now the focus is away from what the person actually did, and they've now deflected the whole situation to be me. Now that's the problem. That's what I've faced, and that's where I saw like really problems in those sort of relationships where that was the case. But you are quite correct when you're saying there has to be also a mirror sort of thing that you put within yourself to say, okay, what's going on in the situation within me? Am I really coming across strongly emotional in this situation? But also not negating to see the other side. What might be this person playing on? Am I now being forced to actually now focus on my own reactions and now negate to address this issue that is more important of what's going on here and what it is that you've done and how it now affects our relationship? Because most people use that as a maneuvering, like puppet sort of thing that they do to now maneuver your own emotional sort of things that are going on, so that you are now out of their business of what they've done.
Okay. That's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me and Nasipho. If you have any statements or any of these 5 things have actually affected you in your life and in your relationships, comment below. Tell us which one. Was it number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Or just write your story and share it with us in the comments. We always enjoy hearing from you guys. Thank you guys very much. Goodbye.